Hello, Anna. How are you doing today?
Hello, Jonathan. I'm doing great. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. It's early morning here, 7 a.m., but alive and kicking and ready to roll with you because we're going to talk
Oh, yeah.
about peer-to-peer lending, what it is, what the risks are, etc. And because you are the investor relationship manager at Robocash. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, sure, that's right. So basically what I do is I work for a European investment platform, which is called Robocash, as you mentioned, and I work directly with investors, so I kind of talk to them, chat to them on chats, social media, and we also develop blogger relationships with bloggers, with the media. So basically, we just make ourselves heard,
Yeah.
we make ourselves more popular, and we also make sure that investors are heard and we implement what investors want to see on the platform. So it works both ways.
Okay, no, very good. We will go in the details on the platform a bit later on. So, what I wanted to, why I wanted to have you on, is to explain a bit what is peer-to-peer lending, and yeah, for whom it is, etc. Some basics, just to understand a bit the concept behind it, because I think it gets some bad press. Let's be honest, it gets a bit some skepticism. So, is it for everyone or not? I think let's start straight away, Anna, with basically what is peer-to-peer lending.
Okay. Yeah, so peer-to-peer lending is kind of a new concept on the investment market. So it's not as old as bank deposits or stock shares, but still it's actively developing now.
Hmm.
And so the core of it is so peer-to-peer lending. So one person lends money to another person, but just not directly. So we have a borrower on one end. So this is a person who wants to borrow money, but for example, there is a person and his car broke down and he needs money right now to fix it because he needs the car for work and for life. But if he goes to the bank, it is probable that the process will take too much time because he needs a lot of documents, and then the banks take some time to process it, and then there's a good chance that the money will not be lent in the end. So this person can go to an alternative lending institution where the process, the application process is a bit simpler. You need fewer documents, and usually it takes 1 or 2 days to be processed, and the chances are higher that you will get this money. So this is how it ends from one end. So the borrower borrows the money from a lending institution, so
Hmm.
or a lending company. This company then goes to a platform, and this platform collects money from investors. So
Yes.
basically, investors lend money to a person, but they have two companies in the middle, a platform and a lender.
Yeah. Okay. But then a question, because let's say my car breaks down. So I say to the bank, look, okay, I don't have 5,000 euros on my bank account. For what reason? So I go to the bank. They say no, sorry, no, or we need 2 weeks to process it, which is annoying because okay, my car is stuck now
Sure,
basically, and I need those 5,000, which I don't have. So I go
sure.
to this loan originator institution, and then
Hmm.
they tell me, yeah, it's okay. You can have them tomorrow, and then okay, your car gets fixed, so your problem is solved. Um, but isn't there a risk because they might take me even without don't they do the proper checks, or why is it? How come it can be provided so fast?
Yeah, so the thing is that banks are usually quite complicated institutions with a lot of
Hmm.
paperwork, bureaucracy, and those lending companies are normally based online and they are more agile in this sense.
Okay.
So they have very advanced scoring systems. So they assess every borrower on thousands of different aspects, mostly collected from online and from the papers that he or she given. So this is why it's more, this is why it's faster
It's
because of the
faster.
mechanisms. Yes.
Okay, because one critic that some people have said is that yes, but if you go for peer-to-peer, it's people with high-risk profiles. For example, okay, if I don't have those 5,000 euros or even less, let's say even 1,500 euros for my car repair that I don't have today in my bank account. I mean, in Western Europe, it's not a huge amount, but it's maybe not an amount that everybody has, but maybe it makes me a high risk if I cannot afford it from my pocket or in a 2 months installment, for example.
Yes. Well, if we compare these borrowers to those who come to the banks, yeah, the risk is a bit higher because banks, yes, they do have more complicated criteria. But still, so these lending institutions, first of all, they do not give money out to everyone who asks for it. Of course not.
Okay.
So they still have some scoring systems. And yeah, so the risk is higher and the returns are higher as well, just like with banks. For example, the bank deposits give much fewer returns than here. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. And then, okay, then going one level a bit further, Anna, about the ethics, because this has been a bit the critic on peer-to-peer lending. It's profitable of the poor people. I mean, I'm making it in a comic way, but actually it's the critic, and it's a question I've been asking myself. I mean, if I, let's say I invest some money, am I not a bit profiting of people who may not be as comfortable as me, or who may have already difficulties in their personal lives?
This is actually a very good question because we've been facing it, and actually, as employees of a company who works with it, of course, you question yourself whether you're doing the right thing or if you're harming someone.
Exactly.
And I would say that everyone decides for themselves. Of course, the way I see it is we do help people who cannot get this help from any other source. So like in the example that I gave you, so you have an emergency situation, maybe something medical, maybe something with your car, your house, whatever. And you need money now and you go to a bank, but because you have maybe some low credit score or just for some reason the bank doesn't give you the money, but you still need it. So what are you going to do? And in my view, you still have a chance to get this money, even though it goes with higher interest rate, but still it's a way to get along. And people do that. And for example, our repeat customers rates. I mean, for lending companies, of course, not for investment, but for lending companies, it shows that people are returning. So if it were so bad, people probably would not do that again and again. They would go maybe to some other sources, to brands. I don't know. Yeah. But as I see it, we give people help that they need when they cannot get it from anywhere else.
Okay, no, very good. Thank you for this clarification. I really wanted to ask this question, so I think it's important. And yeah, thank you.
It is important. Yes.
Yes. And then, okay, moving on. So I think you explained the basics quite easily. Now I'm wondering, in general, we touched already a little bit on it. So what are the pros? I mean, as an investor, because I think the listeners are more into the investing listening from the investing perspective. So from the investing perspective, what would be then the pros and the cons of investing, of entering the peer-to-peer investing world? Yeah.
So the pros, I would say, well, first of all, it's convenient because you only need your computer, well, your bank account, of course. And it's quite easy. So you just sign up on a website, you upload your ID or passport photo, and if all goes well, if you're verified, you can start investing, and it's all completely online. And It's passive because once you got the money into the account and you set up your portfolio, so basically you just choose the settings, the interest rate, the term in which you would like to invest, maybe some countries. So you set it up, and basically you can leave it, and the money is working for you. Of course, you should check up on it from time to time, just to see what maybe something changes on the platform, just to see if everything's okay. But you don't have to watch it every day, mostly. So it's easy, quite easy. It's passive, and also the liquidity is quite good. Because you, first of all, you can choose the loans to invest in, like 7 days, 20 days, so it's not much. So you put in your money in a 7-day loan. After 7 days, you get your money back, and you're free to go if you want to. And there is also secondary market, which is an option that many platforms offer, which means that if you buy a loan, for example, for a year, so you invest your money to be there for a year, but then you change your mind and you can sell this loan to another user.
Within that year?
Yes,
Yeah.
before the year ends. Yeah, good. And I'd say low volatility is also a pro because so when you invest, you know the interest rate and it will not change on the way, even after a year. So
so you commit to an investment of, let's say, 8% that you see. So you commit your money to it. It doesn't change over the year. It's 8%.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is normally how it works.
Yeah.
Of course, this is what I see, at least on our platforms. Yes. So you can kind of predict how much you will get at the end of the term, something that you cannot do with ETFs or stock shares or crypto, which is very popular now, but it's very volatile. And in P2P, you do not see things like that. And maybe the returns. So the returns are about 10% on the European market now, which is quite good, given that it's something you can count on normally.
Okay, very good. And then these were the advantages or the pros. So what are the cons, or what are the risks, let's say?
Yeah, of course, there are risks, and well, any investment is a risk, and P2P in particular, it is considered high risk investment. But I'd say, like I said before, that the market is developing and investors are getting more experienced, and it's getting less risky. But still, now it is considered as high risk investment, and the first risk that is quite obvious, that if you lend money to somebody, this somebody may not give it back. So, but this risk is covered by most platforms by the so-called buyback guarantee, which means that so there is a due date. If the borrower does not give money back on this due date, after a certain period, you will still get this money back together with the interest, because the lending company is obliged by the legal documents to repay this money to you. So
okay, because here, just to break it down a little bit, to make sure if I understand correctly. So to go back to the example of my car that breaks down and I need a loan, so I go to this lending institution, which is partner with the Robocash, for example, or any other, Mintos, or any other competitor. So I go, but then in the end, I get this 1,500 euros or 5,000, and then I cannot pay it. Somehow, whatever, I lose my job or whatever, I cannot pay. So basically, my car maybe is fixed, but I cannot pay back. So the people that have invested, the investors, they say, oh, but okay, I'm defaulting. Maybe I got a little bit of interest at the beginning, but now I don't get my principal back. So what happens then is, so what you're saying is that you can still get it thanks to the buyback guarantee.
Yes, that's the way it should work ideally, and that's how it works in most platforms, as far as I know, or at least in our platform, it does work like this. That yeah, you get the principal and also the interest rate, the interest for the period. So
Okay.
basically, you do not lose it.
Okay, that's good because the thing is with banks, just to go back to that what you said in the beginning, it's complicated, but there's a bit more insurance there in terms of your money deposited. Okay, it might not, your savings account, let's say, okay, it doesn't deliver much, 0.11 in Belgium, for example, or something, but it's guaranteed, okay, up to 100,000 euros in most countries in Western Europe at least. And in the US, I think it's relatively similar. It's FDIC insured. Now, with peer-to-peer, you say there's a buyback guarantee, but I thought it was a risk as well, depending on the platform. So can you tell us a little bit here what the guarantees are? Because this depends on the companies and it's not government insured or bank insured or something. So can you explain a little bit how that works?
Yes. So this guarantee is basically a legal obligation. So when you purchase a loan, you get this document, which is called loan agreement, and in this loan agreement, you basically make a contract with the lending company. To kind of repurchase this loan from them. And it states that if the lending company does not return the money to you on the due date after a certain period, 30 days, 60 days, 90, it is obliged to give it back to you. As for some reserve fund or something like this, like how exactly do I know that this company doesn't go default and just says...
Yes, because this is depending on the funding, on the financials, the strengths, the financial strengths of the company. Nothing else. So if the company is strong, fine, then it works. But if the company is not fine, unfortunately, then it's not, the buyback guarantee is a marketing argument then.
Yes, I agree with that. And this is where we come to actually another risk. So when the borrower is not paying back, but the lending company is healthy, we do get the money and it's all good.
Yeah.
But if the lender is not healthy or the platform is not doing well, this is another risk. Yes. And this is a bit more complicated because I think, and that the legislation in this sphere is still developing. It's not yet set, like with banks. And some platforms aim for particular licenses or have already gotten them, but this is not unified, I'd say.
Yes.
And so the way you could leverage this risk or somehow mitigate it is practically by checking the financial reports of the lender and the platform as well. And it's best if they're audited, and they should and must be published on their website openly so that you can check. So one thing is that they publish these reports at all on regular basis, and if they're audited, it's good also. And also you need to check, of course, the revenue and the net income, because if you see that the reports are not so good, well, probably that's a reason to think about something. So the way you mitigate this risk is just by checking the financial reports if they're available. If they're not, well, it's probably the risk you're taking.
Yeah, sure. And it's very important as well, as investors to do your research, but as well for the platform or the providers to be as transparent as possible. I know some platforms do show their financials, which is good because then you feel safer. At least first they show, so they're not afraid. Secondly, okay, then you do your analysis and you see, okay, they have a net profit, they have reserves. So they can meet their financial obligations. So that's a reassurance. Okay, no, very good. Sure. I think that's thank you for that. Anna, one question I have is as well. Okay, I think we covered already quite some ground. And now, in terms of investing, I was wondering one thing. So, who are your customers? The investors. What profile is the people? Is it young people, I mean, I don't know, older people, younger people, millennials, Gen Z? I mean, just the age range and then a bit the average, or if you can give some numbers on how much they invest in general, the average portfolio or something like this, just to have an idea of who your customers are.
Yeah, so our customers mostly, as you mentioned, are the millennials. So they're from probably 25 to 45 years old is the biggest part of our audience. And yeah, then of course we do have the Gen Z, which is the part is quite small, but it's growing slowly. But I think it's attributed also to the age because you need to be at least 18 years old to start investing.
Yeah.
And but not many 18-year-olds actually do that. Of course, we do have older generations as well. We have people over 70, 80, even 90 investing on the platform. And yeah, we also have whole families, husbands, wives, children
And
investing.
where are the people based? I mean, in Western Europe, Russia, or I don't know, Eastern
Uh,
Europe?
Eastern Europe as well. No, mostly it's Europe because we are working on the territory of the European Union under its laws. So, for example, we cannot serve people from Norway. um, but we do serve people from Switzerland and the UK.
Okay.
Those that are from outside. Yeah. And so the average portfolio, as far as I remember, is about 3,000 euros.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we do have different categories of people, for example, who come and they start with, I don't know, 500 euros, but then they gradually increase their portfolio or they stay where they are. So, yeah, but the average, I think, is 3,000 euros.
And what would you say? I mean, just peer-to-peer lending, investing in general. I mean, who should invest? Who should not invest? I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
That's maybe a tough one, but peer-to-peer. When you talk about investing, I mean, I know some listeners, for example, it's already how can I say, a big step to start investing in the stock market, for example. So, and that's, let's say, the more traditional way of investing. So it's already hard. Now, peer-to-peer investing, okay, should that be the first step to invest, to start investing at all? Or should the one start with more traditional stuff before going into peer-to-peer? I mean, can you share your thoughts on that, on this aspect?
This is actually a really good question because I think peer-to-peer, it's obviously not for everyone, but I think that everyone should try it at least and make their own opinion. I mean, this is not just a way of promotion, but I think that's really true because you never know till you try, of course. But yeah, if we get more serious, I think you can start if you have no experience in investment and just some basic knowledge. Of course, if you do not have any knowledge on this, you should not start with any investment. But if you have some basic knowledge, you could try P2P as your first asset with some small amounts of money because the entry threshold is also very low. You can start with just a couple of euros, literally.
Yeah,
And
that
it's
makes
quite
it
simple.
easy. I can imagine for a Gen Z or somebody that is 18, 19 years old, because they think, okay, I cannot buy a share of Tesla because it's $1,000, or a share of any other company because it's 300 euros or dollars. And with peer-to-peer, usually you can enter with as little. I mean, I'm investing not in Robocash, but in a competitor platform that I've known for a few years. And it's you can enter for 50 euros in Europe easily, or 100. So you can put 100. So it's easy to do.
Yes, that definitely is. And yeah, actually, you can literally start with 2, 5, or 10 euros. But of course, it won't give you much profit. It will just show you the way it all works. You can try it with just some real money, but not really risky. So I think it can be a start for somebody who wants to start investing but doesn't want to fiddle with stocks, who's afraid of stock shares or cryptocurrencies, for example, but wants something more than just bank deposit. So I
Sure.
think this can be a start. And then once you try it, you can decide whether to increase your exposure or to diversify your portfolio, which of course is a must. So, so if you invest with P2P, you need to diversify, and this is also another way. So if you're already investing in something more traditional, you can try P2P lending to diversify your portfolio because, like I said, it's quite passive. I know I have some friends who invest, and I see how they follow the stock shares rates, exchange rates, like every hour of their lives, and it's a mess.
Yes, indeed, and it doesn't help any further unless they are trading like madmen. But yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
But you mentioned passive. I mean, I prefer passive in general. Huh? So yeah.
Yes, and I totally understand it, and I stay away from dangerous stocks as well because I don't want to I don't want to stress out about this.
Exactly.
So with P2P, it doesn't have to be like this. You can check like every week, once every 2 weeks, just to see what changes and that everything's all right with your portfolio, that you have no uninvested funds, for example. So maybe the settings are wrong or something, but it shouldn't be every day for sure. So I think that's whom it suits best. So both for beginning investors and for those who want to diversify.
Yes. Okay. Okay, very good. So now let's move on to Robocash, the platform itself. So I have not used it, but okay, I've checked some reviews before, and that's why I was saying, okay, this is interesting. Because to me, I have not seen the name very much. I've seen mostly others, like Mintos, for example.
Sure.
Who are very popular, and it works well, and they're very well known. And Robocash, I have not seen as much publicity yet, or maybe it has not reached me. So what's the story behind Robocash? Because of what I saw is that it started in 2013, and then it went live as a platform in 2017. So what's the idea behind it? Can you shed us a little bit of light on the story of Robocash?
Yeah, gladly. So yes, as you mentioned, the whole story started in 2013, but it started not for the platform, but for our parent holding Robocash Group. So 2013 is when the first lending company launched. And then another, so it was in Russia, then we started another one in Kazakhstan and in other countries of Southeast Asia. Long story short, now our parent holding Robocash Group has 8 lending companies in different countries. Mostly it's South Asia. It also has one in Spain, and it also has the lending platform ourselves, which was launched in 2017. So basically, very soon we're having our 5th birthday. And the idea behind the platform was to attract funding for these lending companies just to develop further.
Where is the company based? I forgot to ask.
So Robocash is based in Croatia.
Croatia.
No, yes, and the team is working from different countries, different places. So most of us are working from Russia because the holding has Russian roots, and but I'd like to emphasize it that although the holding does have Russian roots, it is now headquartered in Singapore legally. So the holding company is located in Singapore, and the platform is registered and located in Croatia. So no investor money go to Russia in any way, because they circulate between the European bank accounts and the accounts of lending companies, which do not include Russia.
So if I open an account today, basically I send my money to an EU account or to a Singaporean account?
So you will send this money to... Okay, that's a funny story, because initially we started in Latvia. I mean, the platform was founded in Latvia, but then we moved to Croatia because the conditions were more favorable in that country. But the bank is still in Latvia.
Okay, so I would send money to Latvia, basically.
Yes, to Latvia, and then to the country where you want to invest to. So now you can invest in Singapore, Kazakhstan, Spain, and the Philippines.
But do I send then my money straight to Philippines?
No, you send them to Latvia, and then it is sent to the Philippines.
Internally, yeah, okay.
Yeah, internally, right.
Okay, no, very good. And how does it work with monitoring all those countries? Because, I mean, I guess it's not easy and there's different regulations. So how does that work? I mean, how is the functioning behind the scenes of Robocash then?
Actually, it's very convenient, and it's really important that we are all inside one holding. So we're not a marketplace that onboards some third-party lending companies. Now we work with our own companies, which means that we can monitor. We know internally what happens with all of our lenders, and we know their financials because they're all our own companies. So we monitor them, and we also have local people, local employees, professionals in the market, so that we know that everything's all right there. Not just we as Russians or Kazakhstan people come to the Philippines and start business here. No, we have some local professionals as well.
Yeah, no, that's very important as well. And then one question, then a marketing question. For example, okay, there are some other platforms which are maybe more known than yours today, and that's okay, that's how it is. So what makes Robocash different then?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I'd say our biggest advantage here is precisely the fact that we are working inside our own holding group, which is not a unique model, because there are other platforms that work in the same way, but every one of those platforms, including us, has its own I'd say its own way of developing, because we all have different countries to invest to, different strategies as of the holding itself. So, for example, for Robocash Group, we are now aimed precisely at Southeast Asia, and we know how to work there, and we have good financial statements, so the reports, and we publish them, and we have our plans to develop there. So some other platforms that work with seemingly the same model within their own holding, they have other vector of development. So I think being inside our own holding and being profitable and quite well off, and knowing what we do and where we're going, is what makes us stand out.
No, very good. Thank you for that. And I checked your financials briefly because they're on your website. It's transparent. No, it's in a very good growing trend with increasing net profit. So that's quite good. And it makes it look safe as well as investors. One question I have is in Europe, I don't know if there are, I mean, maybe you know, if there are talks about regulating the space of peer-to-peer lending or the crowd lending space, etc. Do you know where we are on this, or if there is some progress to be expected this year?
If I may ask, do you mean Robocash in particular, or the market as a whole?
The market as a whole. If there's a regulation at EU level or a government level in general, I don't know if there are some updates there.
Oh, to tell you the truth, I'm not really into this juridical stuff, but I know that, yes, the EU is developing a regulation on crowdfunding and crowd lending, which are similar to P2P. Yes, yeah. And but as far as I know, it hasn't been implemented yet fully, but it's being developed. It has been developing for a couple of years now, as far as I know, but it's not yet set.
Okay. And then maybe one last question, because, okay, I mentioned your financials are getting better. So, so it's very good for you. And congratulations. And
Thank you.
what would you say is how come you're so successful? Is it a general market trend, or is it just a Robocash growing, expanding in various countries? What are the factors behind the success?
Uh, I'd say, well, it's the market, of course, but still you need to be able to navigate this market because we know quite a number of stories where lending companies didn't shuffle it. For example, in 2020, in the first half of 2020, when everything was quite bad in the world. So what we do is we try to monitor everything very closely, especially when there's crisis, and we want to be as fast as possible to react to those changes. And we have strategies prepared before some crisis strikes. So if we need to, we can cut some costs, we can refocus, we can change our marketing strategy fast,
Okay,
not
so it's
take
back a
into
bit to this
advance.
agility then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
okay, no, very good. Okay, well, Anna, I want to thank you. I think that we come at the end of the show. I want to thank you for all the precious information you gave us. I think it gives a good. I mean, you gave good explanations. I think you made it quite comprehensible. I mean, it may not be an easy topic for everyone, and I think you made it quite simple in your own words for the listeners to understand. So thank you. But before I let you go, we always have our 3 quick fire questions, as you may know. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready.
Very good. So the number one question is, what has been your best investment so far?
Uh, so my best investment, it's not quite traditional. It's investment in my knowledge of languages. First of all, I think because I speak 3 languages apart from Russian, and I really love it, and it opens up a ton of possibilities for you culturally. You get to read books, watch movies. You meet a lot of new people whom you couldn't meet if you didn't speak that language. So it's a great investment.
No,
And yeah.
no, excellent, because it's one I never heard before, and it's an important one as well. So what languages do you speak?
Well, so my native language is Russian, and I also speak English, obviously, and then Spanish and German.
No, very good languages to know. No, excellent. And then the number 2 question is, it's always the same. It's, what is a book you can recommend to everyone, and it does not need to be a financial book.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I'm not really into non-fiction because it doesn't relax me. But I do that if I
I
have
understand.
to. Yeah.
Depending on the book, I try not to read them at weekends.
Yeah. Well, to me, something I would recommend will be, well, a fiction book. I think that would be the Martian Chronicles by Red Bradbury, which is practically, this is a set of short stories, and I really like short stories. But they all happen in the same setting of Mars colonization. And I really like it from the psychological side, because the way the colonizers treat the Martians, the way they treat their planet and the new planet, and even the way people treat each other in the future when they are colonizing another planet, this is very interesting. And I think this is something that is happening right now. And it makes you think whether we would be ready to colonize anything before we learn to treat each other with respect.
Yes. Okay,
So yeah.
very good. Excellent suggestion. And then the last question is, what is a purchase you can recommend for below 100 euros?
Uh, this is actually something. So when I made this purchase, this was below 100 euros. I'm not sure it's the same now because the inflation is not stopping. But for me, it was my Kindle book, so electronic book, and it's just the best thing that happened to me
Oh,
under
wow.
100 euros. Yes, because it's really convenient. I really love it because I like reading before I go
Hmm.
to bed, but I don't like doing it with a smartphone or notebook, sorry, a laptop, because well, it hurts your eyes and it makes you more tired
Hmm.
if you know about circadian rhythms and so on. So I really like it, and also you get to have the whole library with yourself wherever you go, especially when you travel often or if you move from one place to another, and you get the access to many books in many different languages, which is more complicated if you want to buy a physical copy. For example, here in Russia, it's difficult to buy a Spanish books. Uh, but with an electronic book, it's the world is your oyster.
Yeah, no, very
So,
good. Excellent advice. And I can tell you that I bought mine below 100 euros lately. So, like 1 year ago, it depends on the sale. So,
yeah.
it's still possible.
Good. Then I totally recommend
Yeah,
to do that.
no,
It's
very
worth
good.
it.
And then, yes, so we talked about Robocash, obviously. So, where can people find out more about Robocash or about you, Anna? How can they contact you?
Uh, okay. I can be contacted through LinkedIn or Facebook. You can find me there. And you can also find our communities there on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or just visit our website, and there you will see the links to all our communities and a YouTube channel, by the way. So if you have any questions left, I'm open to them, so you can contact me there.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'll link it all up in the show notes anyway, and then so the people can contact you or at least get in touch with Robocash, see if it's something for them or not. And then I want to thank you again, and I wish you a nice day further.
Thank you for being such a wonderful host. It was a real pleasure to be there with you. And yeah, I hope your audience will enjoy it.
I'm
So
sure they will.
thank you very much. Enjoy your day as well.